I, Vampire number 12, written by Joshua Hale-Fialkov, art by Andrea Sorrentino. Last issue left off with the vampire hunting zombie vampires making their way into a major city and bringing a bunch of reinforcements of new vampire hunting zombie vampires. I will not explain any of that again. So we come out this time to a door opening up, a portal. It's Stormwatch from everyone's favorite book, Stormwatch. And we get Apollo, Midnighter, and Jack Hawksmoor. And for anyone who doesn't know, Midnighter is just gay Batman, Apollo is gay Superman, and Jack Hawksmoor talks to cities. That's all you need. So they all step out and they're like, hey, so an entire city has literally disappeared, and Jack feels that. But another city, or a city worth of things, has appeared over there. So Apollo flies up and he checks it out and he's like, oh, there's a lot of blood and slaughter and vampires and zombies over there, and technically mummies. So maybe we should go over there. So we see that Andrew, he's still keeping the entire crowd of zombie vampires frozen so that they're able to just very quickly and efficiently kill all of them. But as it turns out, Andrew is not that great at magic, so he's not able to really freeze them for that long, so it's only a limited amount of time here. But the fight continues on, and Mary's going through. She's killing a whole bunch of them. One of them almost gets the bite on Mary, but she manages to turn into mist before that happens. And then Stormwatch, watching from afar, they see that and they're like, hey, HQ, talking to the engineer up on their base. They're like, what do we have on vampires? And so she gives the rundown of, that's Andrew Bennett and Mary Seward and blah, blah, blah. So they gather, okay, so these things are actually vampires, and I guess that the goal should be we have to kill them all. So, all right, let's get down there. So they jump down and they jump into the crowd of vampires. And when they get down in there, Andrew is officially running out of magic. They're all starting to move again, and everyone's now fighting a little bit harder to try to stay alive. And Andrew realizes oh crap, I am not in charge of this situation. So at that point, Apollo arrives, and he tries using sunlight to kill all the vampires because he literally goes with sun, and it's not working. They're like, okay, so that's one of the things that's not a rule. Let's try a different one. And all of the vampires start coming up to bite Apollo, and as they bite him, they just disintegrate. So he's like, oh, all right, well, guess I'll just do that then. So he just lets a bunch of vampires bite him. And then Jack comes up with the idea of, hey, if you get their leader, then the rest of them will die. That's a thing. So go get the one with the streaky hair over there. So Andrew's trying to buy some time to get his powers back because they're currently depleted. And Apollo just tackles him and says hey, I'm here to kill the head of the vampires. And he's like, dude, those are Lost Boys rules. Are you serious? And he's like, hey, I didn't even know vampires existed as of 5 minutes ago. So he uses his powers to attack Andrew in just a beautiful splash page. And then Andrew just sits up and he's like, okay, now here's the deal. I'm actually trying to deal with the zombie vampire problem. So can we get that straight? And then down below, Midnighter is Jack's like, what's going on up there? And he's like, well, I'm willing to bet that we thought that the good guy was the bad guy, and now we've realized he's the good guy, and so Apollo's giving him a chance to talk himself out. And then Apollo lands, and he's like, so what went on up there? And he's like, well, turns out we assumed the good guy was a bad guy, and Jack's like, yes, I get it, thank you. All right, so what are we doing to stop these things? And at this point, Tig, she finally gets overwhelmed by the vampire horde attacking her. She's bitten, and she's converted into a vampire hunting zombie vampire. So she then immediately jumps over the crowd and goes straight after Andrew Bennett. And she's like, damn it, Tig, not you too. All right, well, this needs to end now. And he blasts away Tig with a little bit of magic power, calls to Mary, and they both just fly up to the top of a cliff nearby. And they're like, all right, I'm not entirely sure how to handle this situation. Does anyone else have any ideas? And so Midnighter steps up and he's like, hey, here's the thing. We talked to our HQ. They reference you as the Demon's Lock. Do you know why that's true? And he goes over the history of there was Cain, and I got some magical power. I came back as Magic Jesus. It's a long story, but yeah, I can lock away Cain. And they're like, okay, well, do you think maybe you can lock away this dark power? And he's like, guess it's worth a try. So he goes over to Mary, and Mary's like, this is an awful idea. You shouldn't be doing this. And he's like, this is all my fault. I gotta give it a shot. So he kisses Mary, then he flies over the entire crowd of vampires, and he uses his magic in just this huge bubble. Like it looks like the moon literally crashed into the earth. It's that big of a bubble. But he absorbs all of the vampires inside of it, and he takes all the power inside of them. And then we see Mary, who she's trying to fly up to Andrew, and she can't. Andrew has cured all of the vampires within that area of their vampirism. He is now the only vampire left. And everyone else is totally fine as well. Everyone's back to normal. Andrew's the only one. So Tig sees Andrew like collapsed. It looks like he's in pain. She runs over to him and says like, oh, thank you so much. And he's like, no, thank you, Tig. And he's like, why are you thanking me? Because you'll be the first of my new children. And we see a demonic face on Andrew as he sinks his teeth into Tig and seemingly has gone back to being evil vampire. So for anyone who remembers me saying that iVampire ended at issue 12 or issue 0, I just want you to know I never said that, because that would be a stupid thing to say, and it definitely wasn't just because I misplaced my volume 3 of iVampire, because that would be stupid. So no, this one has at least another 10 issues left in it, give or take. So it's gonna be a bumpy road. I mean, Andrew's back to evil, and it's got a whole thing going on now with Tig, the one person who was a vampire hunter, is now turned vampire. I'm in. I'm loving it. I think this was a good wrap up to the whole Mary and the army of vampires thing. It did a great job of it set up a while back that Andrew does have this ability to lock away this dark power, and now he's using it again, but for a different purpose. It was a very well set up and executed thing. I love the whole vampire hunting vampire zombies. That's fantastic. Genuinely, I love all this. I can't think of anything that I can really dislike. The only thing that I kind of dislike here is that we just introduced Stormwatch for this issue. It strikes me a bit more editorial than it does actually organically needed in the plot. That being said, from what I know of Stormwatch, it does seem like it'd be something they would handle, that an entire city just disappears and turns into vampires. That does seem kind of like their deal. So I can understand the justification for it. It just doesn't feel like it was necessary to the plot. But overall, I mean, just in terms of covering this whole arc, I give this issue a 9. But in terms of this issue standing on its own, I'm going to lower it down to an 8.5. And that's just because this issue didn't do everything. This issue didn't introduce the vampire hunting vampire hunters, zombies. God, I love that so much. I cannot overstate that. This book really is just a standout point in the New 52. Absolutely love the art style. Absolutely love the writing. Both of them work so well hand in hand. I cannot picture any of these characters in any way except how they're executed here. So, yeah, no, 8.5, and I'm down with whatever we got coming up.